Class is in session. Time to fire up those 529 plans.
Welcome to the Physician Sense Podcast, a podcast designed specifically for physicians, offering a breakdown of complex financial topics to help you develop your financial IQ, further your financial journey, and improve your well-being. Whether you're a medical student, resident, fellow, or attending physician, you're sure to learn something new that will benefit your journey. And now, your hosts, Chad Chubb and Tyler Olson.
Welcome to another episode of the Physician Sense Podcast. I'm your co-host, Chad Chubb. I'm joined by my number one bromance in the financial industry, Tyler the Olson. Tyler, how are you, my friend? July 1st. We don't call them seasons, but if we were calling them seasons, this is the start of season 3. Can you believe it? 2024, the bromance gets hotter by the minute.
Look at that shirt. Man, if you're watching this on YouTube, your shirt, man, you're bringing in the season 3. You look like there's this garden in Chicago that we used to go to, and it's just like in the spring and summer, it's just bustling with flowers. That's what Chad looks like right now.
Well, this is, if you go back and you watch our most recent episodes, I am on a floral arrangement for the last 3.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my Welcome to July shirt. And also, again, just to continue to light the fire for our bromance, I always like to dress nice for you. I also love your t-shirt, though.
Thank you. I err toward the simplicity in every respect of my life, as you know.
You're like a simple portfolio, baby.
That's right. Yeah. Although I did invest in some serious home gym equipment.
Oh,
yeah.
What'd we add? I love a good gym conversation. What'd we add?
So, I mean, this probably isn't like that big of a deal for a lot of people, but for me it is. My personal trainer, his gym uses Rogue fitness equipment.
Good stuff.
And I really liked it. And so I got a Rogue shelf with like the dumbbell shelf that's kind of at an angle.
Yep.
And I got some more like heavier dumbbell weights, and then I got some kettlebells. Yeah, for like deadlift, squats and such. And then we also got I installed a ballet bar and like a mirror on one of the walls in our exercise room, so we can do like balance exercises and ballet exercises. So the shelving is like so heavy duty. I was like, whoa, this is a little bit over the top for this room, but it's nice.
Well, you're buying the good stuff. Rogue is good stuff. We actually have a Rogue softbox in the gym, so we can do like the jump ups.
Yeah,
that's a good one because Mari and I will use it, but then the boys will use it as well. I'd also suggest, I don't know if do you have a weighted vest?
I do have a weighted vest.
Weighted vest is a good one. That's good for just the walks, but also just throwing that on to kind of add a little flair to the pull ups and push ups. It's the way to do it.
I'll tell you, going for a walk around the neighborhood, I get some funny looks when I'm wearing the weighted vest.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced like 95% of the population actually assumes it's a bulletproof vest. So it's always very odd walking through the neighborhood like first thing in the morning. It's always like, this is weighted. Don't expect any fire. We're good.
Yeah.
We're safe here.
Yeah, you don't have to duck for cover.
I'm just bent over because this thing's heavy as heck. That's why I'm bent over like this. All right, good stuff. Season 3, outside of fitness routines, we're going with school is back in session. How does that 529 plan look? So our goal today is to kind of give just a big picture conversation on 529 plans. More or less how Tyler views them, how I view them, because I think that's one of the biggest benefits to our podcast and YouTube channel is that you get 2 different planning firms, 2 different brains on how we function, talk through some of the unique things out there, some of the cool things out there, whether that's the K through 12 spending, state tax deductions. You can now use excess for Roth. We got, different ways to kind of utilize that. So I guess big picture, Tyler, to get us fired up, how do you view the 529?
I think it has some usefulness. You get tax-free growth. You just have to treat it carefully because, we're dealing with children and we have no idea who they're going to become and what they're going to want to prioritize. I know for myself, one scenario I want to avoid is being in a space where I've got some money earmarked for education and my kid doesn't use a lot of it. I mean, if you use most of it, then you're kind of like, oh yeah, we did good. We did the right amount. But if like you're in a scenario where you don't, he doesn't use much of it, then I never want to be in a space where I'm like anxious for the funds to be used for education just for its own sake. Like they're people, they're like, and we like try to help them grow and help, support them, but we don't know what all of that is going to entail. And our own experience with like what worked for us may not work for them. So I think I want to be careful. I think it's important to be careful about assigning too much importance and too much money to the account to where we as parents begin to subtly pressure them to be like, well, we saved this money for you. Like, what if they don't want to, like, I don't think that it's appropriate to use that as like a weapon to like be like, you're gonna do this because, and obviously like a lot of us parents, we're not going to say it that way, but our kids are going to feel it if we feel anxious about the money that's there, that's for education. So I always in conversations with clients, I'm like, let's figure out a reasonable goal of like what you think is possible. And I want you to understand what will be the consequence if the kids don't use this, what your other options are, like the Roth IRA contribution, like you mentioned. And also like a real worst case is you pass it on to grandkids and may or may not create estate tax issues. Or you're just like, you know what, forget about it. Let's just withdraw it. We'll pay the penalties and that'll be it. In either case, usually the financial ramifications are not massive and it doesn't matter that much, but it can feel like it matters a lot. And so I like to put the 529 tool in its proper place so that the given parent doesn't get too wrapped up in it being used to an ideal degree. Was that a short answer? No, but
no, but it was good though. It's crazy. Even when you, again, just financial advisor to financial advisor, I took a page of notes there. So yeah, we are definitely fans of 529 plans, but to your point, it's not just like, let's wing it type thing. One thing that we have historically done is we always call it the 75% rule. So when we type in to our planning software, we get cost of tuition, they'll plug in room and board, they'll plug in miscellaneous costs. I think books is in there as well. They'll kind of give us this total number. And then usually for a lot of our clients, we're aiming to hit 75% of it to kind of give some wiggle room there. To your point, most of our clients' kids are under the age of 10, let's say the bulk of them. Some are much older, some are done with college. So a lot of things can change. We don't know if little Susie's going to Penn. We don't know if little Johnny's going to Penn State. Big difference there in cost. We don't know if they want to go to school. What if little Susie wants to be a hairstylist and she goes to beauty school? What if little Johnny joins the military to protect the great USA? There's a lot of big moving parts in there. So I do agree with, I would not be throwing money into us blindly now. As I always note, 529 plans continue to get more and more flexible, right? We got up to $20,000 per year now for K through 12. We have up to $35,000 for the Roths, assuming that they have earned income, right? There's some rules there. We got a time frame in there. To your point, you already noted, right? Remember, the kids, ideally, the kids are the beneficiary. The parents, maybe grandparents, if grandparents are tuning in, grandparents are the owner. You can change that beneficiary. So if you want to save it for future children, if you want to pass it the whole way out to cousins, I believe we get out to now, you can move things around. We've also noticed that it's hard to pick a number, right? We'll have, again, use Penn versus Penn State. The cost of Penn is almost probably double what Penn State is. And that's a really hard number to plan out for 15 years from now. So we'll have clients that will also say, hey, put one kid at Penn, one kid at Penn State, kind of tell us what the average is between the two, and let's make that our target. So I think there's a little bit of strategy that comes in there. And clearly, as the kids get older, we'll get better ideas of what they're thriving in. Maybe they're good at sports, maybe they're really good with academics. But I definitely think there's enough pros to the 529 plans that it's likely a tool in all of your toolboxes, assuming that you have kids. Also, if you're just a cool aunt or uncle, right? We've got nieces and nephews we can throw in there for as well. We have plenty of clients that are doing that don't have their own kids yet. I think there are a lot of pros there that it's likely a tool in everybody's toolbox. It's just, how do you plan to utilize that tool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just needs to be thoughtful, intentional, and realize that like taxable account can be used as a backstop. Ongoing income can be used as a way to cash flow the tuition when it comes time. Now that I have a cat, I really don't like the phrase, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Why would anyone ever skin a cat? That is awful. Okay, sorry.
I'm more of a dog guy, but I've always thought that that's a weird statement. even me being more of a dog person, it just seems like a strange thing to say. Just throwing it out there. I'm with you.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of right ways here. So you just have to, you got to build that out. I mean, the fact that you can also, like, if you've got multiple kids where you can change beneficiaries between them, I think is interesting. That that you can, a backstop is, putting up to $35,000 toward a Roth IRA. If the 529 plan account has been open for 15 plus years, that's a good scenario too. I remember a client meeting I had in the last couple of weeks where the education piece is really, really important to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to be able to fund undergrad and graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you really need to be massively wealthy to expect yourself to fund 18 years from now grad school. Like, because think about how expensive medical school is now. And some will come back to me and they say, well, things are just going to get so untenable that it won't keep going up. And I'm like, how do you know that? I don't know that. We got to plan with like what we know, and we have to be cautious. And it's so much money. Like, to think you're going to pay for medical school, and not even like 18 years from now, because medical school comes after undergrad. We're talking 22, 23, if the kid was just born now, it's so much money. So I do think that you have to be really careful about that. Like, just because if you don't have that much money available, if you don't have so much money available, you got to not be redirecting away from money that you need. Here's an example. Let's just say that tuition compounds at 3% per year, which is a cautious number. I actually should be going higher because I think the average is like 5.
Yeah, 5, 6. At least it was historically, yeah.
So if it's only 3 for the next 23 years, $300,000 in tuition is going to be like $600,000.
Better pick a good specialty.
If we're at 5%, it's at over $900,000.
And for those with 3 kids, you can now go throw up in a different room.
Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's what I mean about, unless you are massively wealthy, where you are like, oh yeah, $1 million, that's just for medical school. I'm not talking about the $225,000 that undergrad will cost. We're talking $1.1+ million for education per child. So, and it's not to say like, oh, this is a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea if it's important to you, but you just have to make sure that you have an understanding of what you're really prioritizing. And if you don't, I think you really start to get into the risk of not sufficiently funding your own retirement. If you're not, there's some physician households, like dual physician households, where like between the two of them, they're making like 1.5 million, 2 million a year. We've got clients that are in that scenario, and they can do that. It's just that sometimes they're not, and they really want to be able to do something. And we do not rise to our aspirations. We fall to our systems, and that includes our income. That is what we will earn. And sometimes something like this is just not feasible.
Yeah. You snuck it in there 2 times, but the key thing that you should be taking away, if you're going to start to fund the 529 plan, is one thing. If you're going to sprinkle, couple $100 here and that fits comfortably, that's probably not who I'm talking to. But if you're like, no, this is a huge priority. We wrote a blog post on 529 plans. It probably was like 10, 12 years ago now. It's probably one of my first blog posts. And I always laughed on an airplane when they say, when the oxygen mask drop down, put it on yourself before you put it on your kid. And I've always chuckled about that, because with kids, I'm like, I'm definitely putting it on my kid first. But it's a good metaphor to that you should be on track for your retirement plan before you get crazy on the kids' 529 plans. Because the kids can actually take out loans for college. Many of you probably know that, right? We're going for paying them off. We're going for PSLF, whatever the case would be. But you can't take out loans for retirement. We cannot do that. There's no such thing. So if you are going to be the one that wants to fund Harvard and 4 years then again at Harvard Medical School, just make sure that you want a really good track. And as you noted, Tyler, like some clients will be able to crank away and they won't ever think about it again because it just easily fits into cash flow. But for some of you that might have to stretch to hit these goals, again, we talked about values in our last episode. This can be something you deeply value, and we will build that to the best of our ability. But you also want to make sure you're not hurting yourself in the long run. So I agree with that. Two other notes I wanted to put in there. Not saying that all physicians' kids go to private school. That's not fair. But a lot of you probably do have kids that go to private school. And you also sprinkled this in earlier, Tyler. A lot of you will be able to put a good chunk towards college out of cash flow. And the reason why I bring in private school is because you've already been doing it probably for 12 years before that, right? You were already paying 10, 20, 30. We have clients spending 40, 50 grand per year for private school. So all of a sudden, when they go off to college, it likely is still just part of the cash flow. And ideally, you already have systems in place that you can handle that. So in that example, you might even be able to punt the 529 plan later to grad school or medical school. So keep that in mind as well. Tyler, I have a fun follow-up question. Have you ever, in all your years of practice, have you ever had a client pull money out of a 529 plan and they knew they were going to pay the penalty on it because it wasn't for education?
Never.
Same here. That's why I like to ask the question. I've never actually seen it. I'm sure some advisors could come in as a guest and say, no, we've seen it. But maybe we're just blessed with really good clients and let's just say we're great advisors. Why not? That kind of keep everything in check. But like I don't even have a clients where we're like concerned about it per se. They either have like the Roth plan in place so they know they have another child, or they're cool with kind of passing it to grandkids. We've never had a client in 15 years either pull money out or like we actually have like a concern that they're going to have those penalties.
Yeah, no, it's an important conversation piece. If you do it right, then it usually doesn't come to, the scenario of pulling it out and paying fees and penalties and stuff usually doesn't come to fruition. Of course, never say never, right? Kind of similar to like the people when they ask me, 457Bs, if the hospital goes bankrupt, then those assets belong to them, right? And I'm like, yes, that's true. I have no concrete or anecdotal evidence that has ever happened, but it could.
This was early in my planning career, but I will say there was a hospital in Philly called Hahnemann Hospital. And I do believe that they did have that play out. So there is one example. It was like right before we went all in on the physician niche, but we had like sprinkling of clients saying like, we believe that happened. I know that hospital did go completely out of business. I do know that. But anyway, side story. Let's say two more questions to build on here. You also noted this a little bit earlier, kind of sprinkled in the comments here. You have a client that is concerned about saving too much for the 529 plan. What alternative do you suggest if they want to keep saving, but they want to have more options?
Taxable account.
I like that answer. Do you ever, and ever is a tough word in our industry, but do you sometimes suggest an UTMA or an UGMA as an option?
Never.
Please share why. These are the same answers I would have too, but I just like to press you on it.
Yeah. Imagine an 18-year-old finding out that they've got substantial cash suddenly available to them. We parents, we try to train our children and help them to cultivate good habits and appreciation for money. And we even can, to some degree, within the bounds of, I think there is a degree of like an ethical way to kind of guardrail them from really understanding that they could use the money, where it's like they could technically do anything they want with it, but it's a very slippery slope where we could be putting ourselves in a position where we're gatekeeping assets that do legally belong to the 18, 19-year-old now. And depending on the quality of our relationship with them, things can go bad pretty fast if we've been trying to be like, oh yeah, no, that's for college or that's for this specific thing. We need to be truthful with them is what I'm trying to say. We need to be honest with them in what this money is, but that may result in them using the money foolishly. And I think that this entire paradigm of conversations and decisions can be avoided by never opening up those accounts. Ever. I'm sure that there are some scenarios, like you said, we should never say never, but I can't see a reason to do that in today's world.
Yeah. We have some clients that certainly use them. We talk about the pros and cons. One, that's the first con, right? Hey, listen, I know that we all think our kids are going to be fantastic, and I'm sure they will be, but things can go crazy.
Some of them won't be. Like we're all people. Like we all, and it's not even like, oh, good kid, bad kid. It's not anything like that.
Yeah.
We are still babies when we're 18 years old. Good Lord. Like our brains are still developing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it.
And some states at least let you get to 21. So at least then you're still underdeveloped and you can drink alcohol at the same time. So then you make really bad decisions, just speaking from someone that's probably done that. So yeah, you have those issues that sneak in as well. Most of you are not going to get needs-based financial aid. Technically, it blows that up too for you. But for most of you, that's probably a moot point. That's why I like to press you on the topic. We are also fans of the brokerage account. We usually will tell our parents, right, open up a joint account. We'll open up a separate account. This will be the overfunding account.
Right.
Parents love this because, yes, can we use it for college? We surely can. But this also can be used for weddings, can be used for future down payments, can be help just get them out of the nest. But it's liquid, right? We can use it on anything. There's no rules to it. We got to pay capital gains tax. There's things of that nature in there. That 1099 from the account is going to trickle into your side of it as well. But I think it just keeps things clean. You're also in full control again. Similar to the 529 plan, you're in full control of those assets. For our clients with substantial wealth and they do want to put money aside for the kids, that's also usually we'll say, hey, let's actually open up like a true trust account. Because an UTMA at the end of the day is just a generic trust account set up for your kid that it's all built into that application. That's really all it is, the UTMAs and UGMAs. So if you want to put your own rules in place and little Johnny can't take his boys to Vegas when he found out the money hit, you can put that all in place. You can have trustees. So again, I wouldn't say this is like the normal route for everybody, but as your net worth goes up, you can think about adding kind of more rules per se. But yeah, 529 plans, there's a lot of ways to utilize it. Just some parting notes in here, at least from my side, Tyler, you can add in here too. Some states have tax deductions, some states don't. If your state doesn't have a tax deduction, also know your state's asset protection rules. Some states will only protect their state's 529 plan. So keep an eye on those things. If you don't have any special rules, look for like the lowest cost plans. I know Tyler usually does this too. We usually default to like the Utah plan. If there's not special asset protection in your state, if there's not tax deductions in your state. Allocations, we usually keep it pretty simple. I think target enrollment funds are great here for parents that are more set it and forget it. If you want to be a little bit more active in there, you can still build low cost models per se on a lot of these platforms. I think that's the main ones I had on here, Tyler. I just wanted to have some like extra notes in here that we didn't get to, but what else would you tackle on there?
I think it's just important to have these conversations early on. And it's similarly to like the home purchase. It's a decision that's very much tied to our hearts. So we just need to be careful how we move forward with it and not do anything too aggressive without thinking, without planning everything else around it. Oh, one question I had for you. What's your favorite 529 plan?
Big picture, I'd say Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where all the California clients go.
Yeah. And that was kind of my note earlier. Like if you don't have a state tax deduction, you don't have special asset protection in your state, I think Utah's a great plan. It's been a gold plan for, I think, like every year it's been out there. My favorite feature is you can have outside advisors, which if you have an advisor that has a conscience and a heart, they likely are not selling you a 529 plan. They're going to direct you how to do this on your own. And they usually would like to use Utah because then Utah has a cool feature where you can link your advisor behind the scenes and they can still see everything, even though they didn't sell you anything. Mm-hmm. Not going to go down that rabbit hole now, but just saying Utah makes that also really cool. So shout out to Utah 529 plan and for doing some cool stuff. I feel like they've always been like a few years ahead of everybody else in terms of like their infrastructure, their technology. So I always enjoy the Utah plan. I assume that is your response as well.
Yeah. And I'm going to do everything in my power to not go down that rabbit hole because I want to, but
I want to poke you a little bit. I know.
Yeah.
No. We'll let it, I'm going to let it boil up for our next episode.
Making me so mad.
Well, on our investment episode, we talked about the C shares. And
yeah. Anyone who knows me knows exactly what I'm thinking right now. No, I don't want to muddy the waters. This is a good conversation.
Yeah. No, we did good here. We're just shy of 30 minutes. So class is in session. Time to fire up those 529 plans. We're going to get off before Tyler has a mental breakdown here and goes on a tangent on going against the advisor sold plans, which he would also have support from his fellow co-host. But we're going to leave it now at a good spot before we get any sound clips that go viral.
Yep. Good to see you, man.
All right, my friend. I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay.
See you, Tyler.
This information is for general purposes only. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific professional, financial, or tax advice, as individual concerns vary. Please see a financial professional, CPA, and/or an attorney in regards to your own individual situation. Wealth Heals Advisory Services and Financial Planning offered through Vicus Capital Inc., a federally registered investment advisor. Olson Consulting LLC, offering advisory services and financial planning, is a state registered investment advisor.